I have to say it's quite exciting being here because there's so much on display what's going to happen in the travel industry as such. And I believe you can bring it down to one sentence. We better get prepared what's going to happen tomorrow. And there are so many opportunities for all of us. So therefore, I'm also glad being here today talking about the topic of distribution in the industry. Of course, I'm talking about the Lufthansa Group. But before I get into details, I would really like to put it into context. Lufthansa is the world-leading aviation group in terms of turnover, and we are about to modernize the company in all aspects. There are three key words that are important to all company units within the Lufthansa Group. It's flexibilization. For example, if we talk about our hub airlines, Lufthansa, Swiss, and Austrian via the 4 hubs, Frankfurt, Munich, Vienna, and Zurich. It's about digitalization, and that goes across all the units within the Lufthansa Group. And it's about individualization or personalization. And of course, that's targeting our customers. We have invested heavily in the past in new products and services. And now I'm talking specifically about the hub airlines, Lufthansa, Swiss, and Austrian. And of course, we are interested in providing these kinds of services and products to all our customers. So how are we going to do that? Here, distribution is key. And this is how I would like to frame the context, why we are doing all this. It is about the customer, and our aim is customer centricity, focusing on customer needs, and we also believe that those ones are changing. We would like to meet customers' expectations, and there are lots of trends that already show us that we better get organized in order to respond to customer needs. And we do see that in all kinds of other industries already happening today. I just have a few examples here, like the digital developments, also what is happening there with voice interaction. We have individualization in all kinds of different areas. For example, here, the Nike shoe that you can really individualize to your very specific need. And easy to do business with, easy to use, the way how we would like to present our products to the customer. If we are honest, in our industry, and I'm talking about the airline part, we are not yet there. But we believe this is the way forward, and we need to be able to respond to customer needs. So let me just explain to you the story, how we believe the next steps are developing and why we are investing in such an area, which we believe is so important for our next step. Also, not to end up in the commodity trap as an airline, just offering a service, an air service from A to B. There is so much more in the airline industry and within the Lufthansa Group specifically, with all our products and services, that we'd really like to make sure that they reach our customers. And customers, they are very different. They have all kinds of different needs, and we need to be able to address those needs and have an offer available. Our aim is the offer creation, which is more than just the transportation. It can be connected with all kinds of services that we can bundle up in a nice offer creation. We can only do that if we know what are the customer needs and have differentiated offers. So those ones need to be relevant, of course, to our customers. And then here we believe that we need to find the customer. It's not that we can just lean back and say the customer has to find our products. It's us, the airline, that has to find the customer. And therefore, reach is very important to us. And it can be any kind of shelf. So we need to be able to display all our products and services in the various shelves wherever the customer is. In the future, our vision is that these offers that we'd like to provide are dynamically packaged and offered to the customers. The reach has to be extended because I also believe that there will be more players in the marketplace to have these kind of offers ready for customers. So it's not only our own connection to the customer, our own .coms, for example, but also our partners' marketplaces. And new distribution capabilities really give us a very good support in order to deliver that in future. And the future is already now. Let me give you an idea on what we are doing within the Lufthansa Group. We have just a while ago already started to invest heavily into our own platforms. It's an advanced Lufthansa Group digital marketplace that we'd like to develop, where not only our own products will be displayed with all the different features that we are available or that we have available and would like to display. It's also about broadening this portfolio vertically and also horizontally with other partners, like our airlines and hotels, cars, and miles and more, for example. But we don't, as I said, want to narrow it down only to our own platforms. There is a limited reach for our own platform. And here is the story that I'd like to tell you about the distribution possibilities that we have. We've started 3 years ago, and about 2 years ago, almost exactly to the day, we started entering this new stage. It was very disruptive, at least seen from the other side, from the outside. How can Lufthansa do something like that? We are not ready for the future. We knew that we are all not ready for the future, but we believed we needed to really take a step forward. So we started with an offering, and yes, there was a differentiation between the offers in the GDSs, and our distribution freedom allowed us alternative ways as well. Now we are a step further. In the last 2 years, we developed heavily into a functional NDC API. We have full capabilities here, and we are able to offer that to the marketplace. We have more than 35 technology providers that are connected to us, and they are able to connect then on the other side to a travel agency or also a corporate customer. We've introduced just a few weeks ago the NDC Smart Office, which is not only specific fares that we offer to direct connect customers, but it's also an individual new fare structure below the traditional structure that we have. And there's more to come. It's about partnerships, and we'd really like to reach out for our partners in the future and also look for technology partnerships that we can have, because we believe this journey is just beginning. And there is more to come if we talk about dynamic pricing and offers. And we need the NDC standard, the IATA standard, in order to provide these dynamic offers to our customers. So there's more to come. And I'm really happy that already now and today we are able to announce a great partnership with Travix, the first global OTA partnering up with us, with the Lufthansa Group on this journey. And it's a very important step forward because I believe it also symbolizes what is still to come and what is the direction we'd like to go. It's always about the customer. And here we share a vision with Travix. It has to be customer-centric. We have to recognize what the customer wants in order to have an appropriate offer available and provide it to these customers. And this is something that we can do jointly. And of course, here is some technology investment necessary from our side and also from our partner side. Travix started already early with the upgrade possibilities of fare bundles. Now they will come up, and in a few weeks' time, there will be the possibility for rich content offering of Lufthansa Group products that we can really display nicely. And that's really leading into a long-term partnership that we are entering here. So we really make shopping more customer-centric, and we'd like to create value to the customer. And there is more, as I said already, about it if we talk about the airline business than just the product traveling from A to B. There will be more features on offer. Today we have quite a few ancillary elements and value elements to customers, and we are developing more of those ones. And here we foster innovation in a very agile technological environment. So just to come to the end and once again put an emphasis on what is really the key for all those developments. And I believe that is something important for the whole industry, where we really need to look into and make sure that we invest into the right direction. Customer expectations are changing, and we need to make sure that we are aware about those changes and that we are aware about the individual needs of our customers. The digital world gives us so many more opportunities that we didn't have in the past. There has to be a very interactive customer communication in order to make sure that we have the right offer at the right time offering to our customers. And the NDC Smart Offer further enhances our portfolio. What we are having now, it's the price elements, but there will be more to come in terms of ancillary solutions. And the smart solution, that is targeting at a partner reach out. We'd really like to partner up. And here we have Travix now today announced as our strategic partner with the Lufthansa Group. So our NDC API, powered by Fairlogics, is really available for all kinds of customer segments. And we really need to make sure that we understand the different needs of the customer segments. That shall just give you in a short nutshell the idea, why are we heading in this direction? I would just like to underline at the end that we are sure that the path that we had started to take a few years ago and that we had announced 2 years ago and had developed over the past 24 months in terms of technology, in terms of our own people, the resources in the back office functions in order to look into the needs and the developments here is the right track. And I can only invite all the other participants in the industry to really look into the opportunities that arise with the new NDC IATA standard. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to a nice conversation with all of you.
Okay, joining us are Thane Jackson, the Vice President for Global Distribution Channel Strategy at BCD Travel. Gianni Pisanello, Vice President for Amadeus NDC-X, the Amadeus IT Group. And finally, Guillaume Teissonnière, the Vice Chair of ETTSA and General Counsel and Company Secretary for eDreams ODIGEO. So welcome, panel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. The Travix deal, I think, is particularly interesting because we've talked a lot about what the possibilities are. And now, presumably, you would say this, we're finally here, this is the opportunity and we're now doing it.
Absolutely, yes. I'm really happy that we've come to this point because, I mean, technology is something difficult to also comprehend in some areas, and only if it comes live, you can really make sure or explain what is really the scope of this whole thing, and that now comes true.
Okay, so Guillaume, first of all, do you think we are at a tipping point, or is it yet to arrive in airline distribution?
So when we come to the question of the tipping point, I think that we are at a tipping point for the question of the mindset of the travel industry, that things will change. Okay, we are, let's say, entering into a new era. But it's not only, and it's, I think, really broader than only NDC. It's about artificial intelligence. It's about what you mentioned, voice search-based, and all this. So I think that here we all understand. Where I'm not sure that we are at a tipping point is on notably NDC, because it's let's say, an XML-based technology that is, let's say, has been validated in 2012 by an old organization, which is IATA, created in 1945. So in terms of agility of implementing something, we see that it takes a long time. And we don't have, let's say, a kind of consistent approach all across, let's say, the airlines. So I don't know if we are at a tipping point on the question specific of NDC. For the future of distribution, yes, I think things will change.
Gianni, you would presumably say that we have reached the tipping point. I mean, you're an organisation that was arguably one of those that was rather sceptical about what Lufthansa was doing 2 years ago, but now you're...
What?
But, you know, now you're part of an organisation, you have NDC in your title. I mean,
yes, so I have to say it's fantastic, otherwise I get fired. No, I mean, basically, so are we at a tipping point? We called last year at the WPS IATA, it was in November, I can't remember, that we thought this was the time when we can start talking about industrialization of NDC, okay? So there's still some way to go. I mean, we're recreating a whole distribution setup. So, you know, we've had 30, 40, 50 years to optimize the GDS. We're going to probably not need 30, 40 years to optimize NDC, but we have some ways to go. What has been done so far on NDC, and I think these are the first steps that are changing that, is that so far it was a lot of experimentation. Very small scale, small volumes, testing things out, and probably on the simple part of NDC, which is I just want to do a booking. Where I think there's a difference now is that we think that the IATA standard has reached a level of maturity that you can start talking about worldwide deployment at scale. So we're talking about version 17.2, for those who know that's the version that came out last year. There's a new version come out this year, which I think is going to be more stable. Second thing is that you can see a lot more critical mass on the airline side and the travel agency side. So on the airline side, a lot more people are making investments, the right investments. If Lufthansa was the only one, I think we would not be interested in NDC. But we've seen kind of a minimum of airlines committing at a CEO level and also in terms of investments. We see that because we're on the IT provider side, so we see how many airlines are invested. We've seen a change of mindset from the travel agencies in the sense that they understand what's going on. They might not be ready. They might not say this is happening right now. But we saw an appetite there to move to NDC. And that's why we called it to say we're going to start looking into industrialization. We've started now with a number of airlines, a number of travel agencies to develop that capability from a distribution point of view at scale, but it's going to take a bit more time. But the examples that Lufthansa put forward are the ones that show that now we're moving into this new era.
So, Thane, you represent a sector that was quite sceptical about NDC. Do you hold the same view now, or have you, like, you know, your fellow panelists, warmed to the idea?
I wouldn't say we were originally skeptical about it. I think we wanted to see a point where this could be industrialized and this could efficiently enable what we do. And I think we're not yet at that tipping point specifically, but I think, as Guillaume says, I think everybody recognizes change is coming. We'd be foolish not to recognize that change. So I think we're at a position in saying, okay, this is happening, and by the way, congratulations to Lufthansa on their new partnership. I think that we see that as a positive move, but it has to be, for us, in an environment that can be delivered across multiple airlines, multiple hotel companies, multiple car rental companies, because the importance of being able to provide to our customers that true shopping experience in a very efficient way, I think is yet to happen. I think it's coming, but we're not at that exact tipping point yet from a TMC perspective.
A lot of the debate has been, Heike, around who now holds the most power in the distribution chain. Some would argue in the past that it was perhaps the GDSs, and there is an argument now that the airlines hold the power. Do you agree with that?
I would rather say it's all about partnership in future, because there's a lot happening, and I mentioned that we have now more than 35 technology partners that we collaborate and we work together in the distribution landscape, and of course also with the GDSs also as technology partners, and that is important now to see how do we move forward. There are different segments of customers and also different needs, as you mentioned that as well, that we have to cater for. So therefore, I believe it's not the question about power. I'm happy that there is a lot happening in this landscape, in the distribution landscape, because also competition supports fast developments. And we are, of course, as an airline, looking for fast developments now so that we can really make use of the new standard, which I believe is now at a very mature level, and we can already start using it now on a bigger scale, as we have announced it today with Travix.
Okay, so Guillaume, I mean, what kind of redefining or refining needs to happen within just that general kind of ecosystem of airline distribution? Because it can't be perfect at the moment, so what still needs to be done, do you think?
So you know I'm general counsel, so I will not enter too much into the business things. But if I look at the business model, we see that we have different business models. Let's say the one that is, let's say, raising the most concerns is the one that is discriminating the channels. So this one, and in reality, when you talk about NDC, I think that everybody agrees with NDC. It seems like a kind of progress, and we can all agree with that. The question is the way you implement it. And if you start discriminating between channels, then the question is really there, I think. And so, do you believe that, let's say, by discriminating to the channels, this will push, let's say, the intermediaries to go into this direction or not? Or can you, let's say, be neutral? Because I think that some airlines are neutral with NDC. Or can you even incentivize the intermediaries to push them and to spur innovation? So I think that the question is more about, let's say, the business model. And so on that, maybe, I don't know, let's say, where we are. Maybe it's there that we need to redefine things and not, let's say, on the standard. And I would say just one thing on the standard. You know, you have in the industry and the history of industry, a lot of standards that have been imposed by the major players of an industry. If I take the example of the music industry, beginning of 2000, they were all, let's say, with encrypted solutions for, let's say, finding solutions of downloading platforms. And you are Sony, Universal, the big majors, let's say, behind those projects, and they all failed in imposing their own standards. So it's not because you're the big that at the end, let's say, you win, because the disruptor might come, let's say, by another door. So once again, I think that situation remains open.
I mean, we'll come to you on that. Discriminating is a fairly strong thing to say. What do you say to it?
I would argue differently. I would think if we wouldn't have moved forward 2 years ago, maybe something would have happened today, but certainly not as much as happened in the last 2 years. So I believe that with this activity from the Lufthansa side, we really pushed innovation. And I also believe if we are 5 years further or maybe 10 years further and you will look back, you will be thankful that there are some players in the market in our industry that really push these things forward, because we not only look into activities around our industry, but we also look at other industries, what's happening there. And we therefore believe we need to move forward and we need to be fast and we need to develop in that direction. And why should we stop developing and waiting for the last ones to join if there are possible partners that are also willing to invest in that direction and have the same vision, share the same vision about what is needed and move forward jointly in order to show the rest of the industry what are the possibilities.
Thane, comments on the discrimination part of it?
Yeah, well, I think that we may or may not in 5-10 years' time look back and say, well done Lufthansa Group for making that step. I'm not sure our collective customers agree at the moment, and there are models out there which enable a situation where the so-called discrimination does not exist, and perhaps you could argue that's a slightly different approach, maybe a more collaborative approach, and recognizing that this will take time to evolve and develop. So I think if I was to speak on behalf of our customer base who want to see from us trust and confidence in the ecosystem, and by that I mean that there's been a degree of conflict created in the last couple of years, not necessarily simply because of Lufthansa's move, but there has, perhaps looking at NDC over a 5-year period, been some level of secrecy in the early days and lack of engagement across the ecosystem in the early days. I think collaboration and taking a customer-centric approach that says we recognize this will take some time, so here's a way we can work together so your most loyal corporate customers with your most repeat business, your most high-yield business don't have to pay an unfair surcharge, I think perhaps is an alternative way you could consider it.
And, I mean, Gianni, you're in the hopefully good position of being in all the middle of this. So you've got travel agent end users, but you've got customers like Lufthansa. So how do you kind of square the discrimination accusation?
I'm going to go back to the basics of NDC. If NDC can generate genuine new value for the end customer, the traveler, the corporate, etc., then we're going to expand the pie and we have an opportunity for everyone to win. Okay. If that premise is not true, then it won't fly. It will go nowhere. Okay. Now, if we have the opportunity to come up with more products from airlines, provide them to TMCs that can have a better result for the traveler, for the corporate, I think then the questions of discrimination will disappear or go away, should go away, and people should focus on what's really important, which is business, making good business, okay? And not by hurting people, etc., but by jointly collaborating and maximizing the pie. And one of these examples is, for example, data collaboration. So Lufthansa wants to know more about the customer. They have their own information about the customer, but Thane actually knows more about the corporate customers than Lufthansa does because they serve those corporate customers across all travel providers. Is there a way for Thane and Heike to work together collaboratively to share for both of them to win? Probably. And for ultimately the customer to win.
Well, Thane, you should probably answer his question then.
I guess that remains to be seen. We have taken a fairly clear position over the last number of years that we think that the way forward is collaboration, working together, and that the organizations with the scale and the resources to industrialize this is a solution. So in the end, all of our customers collectively win by getting that rich content, getting those personalized offers. We believe those organizations exist out there today. They are, in all fairness, an Amadeus and their competitors that can do that. So is there an opportunity to work better together? I think potentially yes. Does that mean, if I read the subtext of that, does that mean that we will enter into a collaboration more directly with Lufthansa or not? I think that remains a question that we have to answer. But I think the opportunity is there for greater collaboration across the value chain to deliver an industrialized solution so everybody wins at the end.
And Guillaume, I mean, do you sense that there's a willingness for people to collaborate based on these kind of discussions, sharing data and things like that, or is there a reluctance to, do you think?
No, yes, I think there is a willingness to collaborate, yeah. The question is the conditions and the how, but clearly.
What conditions would you like to see then?
No, once again, let's go back to what you mentioned, the basic. We want to make sure, let's say, when we enter into this very heavy process that you can run individually, but when you are an intermediary, and that's what Gianni mentioned, you need to make sure that we are not, let's say, reinventing the wheel. I mean, are we not creating a kind of parallel new GDS environment? Can't we improve the current one? We have other airlines that are not in the GDS environment and that are doing well in terms of ancillaries, in terms of a lot of things. So in reality, the problem is that we have a lot of questions. And let's say the investments are so heavy that we want to be, let's say, 100% sure before starting collaborating. And I think that the approach of, in a sense, penalizing is the one that, let's say, is difficult to accept today. And ultimately, you were mentioning the power, let's say, power airline GDS. I don't think at the end the power will be in the customer. Will you provide, let's say, this value that will make, let's say, at the end the customer accept this? And I think that if this is the case, of course, I think everybody will follow. But once again, I think we should really distinguish NDC from the business model.
Yeah. Heike, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, industrialization is a word that Thane has said. Lufthansa Group has clearly made a heavy investment in it. Industrialization only happens at scale, so maybe lots of other airlines won't have the opportunity to invest heavily. So how does that work then? Because industrialization of the concept won't happen. It'll just be the big players again.
if you would have asked me this question about 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had an answer to you, who is investing and what could be the model, because we were developing on our own, and at that point we didn't have partners yet to see what is going to happen in the distribution landscape. Today, we have already partners supporting. We have NDC developed on a very high mature state. The level 3, 17.2, is really a mature level where you can really make use of what has been established by IATA, and I really believe that is something important, not only for us. Of course, we make use of it now immediately, because we do have a possibility to use it now, and now means within the next weeks with our partners. And here, the next step is now to look into technology partnerships. Who can bring the missing part in? How do we create an end-to-end solution? And in terms of investment, it can be very different from segment to segment, from agent to agent. Of course, there is a wide-scale necessity for BCD, which is a different one for a smaller agency, and therefore the needs are different. But now in the landscape out there are technology partners that can support, and I believe this is the right way to develop. And I really wish that all the participants in the industry try to develop awareness and also educate themselves about the possibilities and also the opportunities that are there and who is offering what. And that could scale down and narrow down also the need for investment, which is, it can vary a lot.
Okay, Gianni, I mean, is NDC a one-size-fits-all approach to all this, or is there something else still yet to come, do you think?
So the way I see it is that we have to set the basis, a foundation with NDC, okay? And on top of that, you'll have the innovation built on top. But to industrialize it, like Heike and Thane was saying, that you really need 3 things. You have to make sure the airline is using the latest version, or close to the latest version, or 17.2 upwards. You have to make sure that the workflows are standard. So it's not only good just using the standard itself, the workflows have to be standard, so that when Thane is booking different airlines, if he goes to NDC, he'll be able to do it in a standard way. And the last element is to make sure that all the servicing elements are there. So it's true for an OTA has a different needs to a TMC. Today, I would say the servicing elements of NDC are still at the early stage. Okay, so when you look at Thane's business, very complex customers, very complex itineraries, lots of servicing requirements. That's when you really need to make sure all those features are implemented and there. Okay, and I think this is just part of the normal journey that we're on, that we have to do things step by step. We go with the easier things first, and then we add incrementally on those. So I think once we have the platform there, the basics will be there, and then everyone is going to be able to build on top. But this, I mean, we're starting. Huh? We have a journey.
Okay, so Guillaume, is the final question really. I mean, in 5 years, what do you think the conversation will be when we have a panel about airline distribution? What do you think the issues will be that we're talking about then?
I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know, let's say. I would say that the landscape, you can have, I really think that NDC is not a disruption. It's not a revolution. It's an evolution of the IATA system, clearly. This is what it is. And a lot of things can happen. So honestly, I don't know.
Okay, Thane, do you know?
If I did, I could make an awful lot of money out of it.
Okay.
But what I would say is that if I hearken back maybe 10 years ago to the direct connect debate then, part of me wants to say that in 5 years we'll be talking about the same topic again.
It'll just be a different airline and a different piece of technology.
But I think the reality is we'll be talking more about how well we've digitalized the environment, how well we have collaborated and delivered on the original vision. And I know we're talking about airline distribution today, but we have to remember from our own perspective that booking an airline ticket is only a very small part in relative terms to what we do overall. Our customers don't just, unfortunately for Lufthansa, just book Lufthansa Group. They book hotels, they book cars, they book ancillary services, they book rail. So NDC, from an airline perspective, is one piece. This has to come across all parts of the value chain so that we're able to efficiently service our customers with all of their needs. So I think we'll still be talking on this topic in a slightly different way in 5 years' time.
Gianni, quickly.
Yeah, 5 years from now, I think the major airline groups will have done the basics right, and we will see a decent amount of volumes going through that, and hopefully they will have innovated a lot and come up with lots of creative products that will be very exciting for all the consumers and for the travel agencies to sell on.
And the final word goes to you then, Heike. Do you suspect that you'll still have to stand up at conferences and evangelize about what you're doing and persuade the rest of the industry to come with you?
I would imagine in 5 years' time I don't have to persuade the industry anymore, because then it will be real life and they will see it. What I can foresee is that in 5 years' time we will be able to have fully dynamic product bundles that are offered to the customers right in time, the right bundle, and throughout various touch points.
Okay, so there'll be another tipping point to talk about, presumably.
Of course, we have to move on.
Okay, thank you very much, Heike, Thane, Gianni, and Guillaume. Great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Warm round of applause.
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you.